Welcome to Quick Speak, the English podcast that helps you learn English. Today we're going to be talking about finding light in darkness. And of course, we'll be using simple vocabulary that's perfect for English language learners.
Yeah, it's something we all go through, right? Everyone has those times of darkness in their lives. Whether it's sadness or grief, or maybe you just feel lost and uncertain.
It is universal, and I think it's really important to acknowledge those feelings of darkness, because they're natural. It's not a sign of weakness. Actually, if we try to just ignore them or act like they're not there, that can really backfire.
Absolutely. It's like you can try to hide the problem. You can pretend it's not there, but it's going to come back. You have to face it head on. That's the first step towards healing.
So we've accepted that, okay, darkness is a part of life. So then where do we go from there? How do we start finding that light?
Well, I think one of the biggest things we can do is change our perspective. You know how we see the situation? It can completely change how we feel about it and how we act because of it. It's easy to get caught up in the negative. But if we try, we can actually change our whole experience.
So instead of focusing on what's wrong, we look for opportunities to learn.
Exactly. Even in the middle of something bad, there's always something to be grateful for. Even if it's something small, being grateful can change everything.
It's that whole thing, right? Like seeing the glass half full instead of half empty, focusing on what we have.
Exactly. There's this thing people do, a gratitude journal. You write down what you're grateful for every day, just a few things. It can really help with your perspective.
I can see that, especially when times are tough. What about human connection? I mean, we're social creatures by nature.
Oh, that's a great point. None of us are meant to be alone, especially during hard times. Talking to someone, someone you trust, whether it's a friend, family, even a therapist or a support group, can make you feel so much better.
It's like having a light in the darkness, someone who's there with you.
I love that analogy. And, when you're struggling, it's natural to want to be alone, but actually that usually just makes it worse.
Yeah, it makes you feel more alone.
Exactly. Surrounding yourself with supportive people makes you feel seen, heard, like you matter. That's powerful.
It's like they're holding a lantern for us,
Yeah.
helping us find our way. I've also heard that finding meaning, purpose, can be a source of light in the darkness. Can you talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. Difficult experiences can change us in ways we don't expect. We understand ourselves better, the world around us. They help us grow our empathy and compassion. And that helps us connect with other people better.
So even though these experiences are painful, they can help us grow.
That's often what happens. And, a lot of people find meaning by helping others. It doesn't have to be a big thing, like listening to a friend, volunteering, doing something you love that helps the world in some way.
So it's not about why me,
Mm-hmm.
it's what can I do to make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It can be so empowering to change your perspective like that. You start to see your own inner strength, resilience, that even in darkness, we can create light.
That's powerful. And it leads us to things like mindfulness and spirituality, which I'd love to hear more about.
Mhm.
They both seem to offer a sense of peace and connection, even in the middle of chaos.
You're right, they do. Mindfulness is about being present, in the moment. You see your thoughts and feelings, but you don't judge them.
So it's being aware of your feelings without letting them overwhelm you.
Yeah. And there are a lot of ways to do that, like meditation or breathing exercises or grounding techniques.
Those sound helpful.
They are. And, for people who find comfort in spirituality, their faith can help them through hard times, whether it's through prayer, meditation, reading sacred texts, being with their spiritual community. Faith can give hope and comfort.
It's connecting to something bigger than ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
A higher power, nature, love. That connection can be a big source of light.
Absolutely. It's about finding what works for you. And sometimes that strength, it comes from inside. We've all heard stories about people overcoming huge challenges.
Yes, and their resilience is inspiring. It reminds us that the light we're looking for is often already inside us. We're capable of so much.
We are. Building resilience isn't about never having problems, but learning how to get back up when you fall.
It's like working a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
That's a great way to put it. Every time you stand up, despite the hard times, you make that inner light stronger.
So it's this constant process of learning and growing.
It is. It takes patience and courage, but it's worth it.
Because in the end, we all have the power to find the light.
We do. And remember, no darkness lasts forever.
That's encouraging. It's good to remember that even in dark times, there's always hope.
And even small acts of kindness, gratitude, courage, Those can be like sparks that light up the way.
Little beacons leading us towards the light.
Exactly. And when we find our own light, we can become beacons for others.
Wow, that's a powerful thought. We can all be sources of light.
We can. And remember, there's always light to be found. Whether it's support from others, changing your perspective, or that strength you have inside yourself.
It's inspiring to think about that.
It is. So keep searching, keep believing, and keep shining.
Beautifully said. We've covered so much today. What about some specific ways to cultivate light and resilience? Things we can do in our daily lives. We'll talk more about those in the next part.
I'm looking forward to it. There are so many practical tools and techniques we can all use to face these challenges and come out stronger. Before we get into those specific strategies, I think we should talk more about resilience. It's really the key to getting through the darkness and coming out stronger.
Resilience is such a powerful idea. It reminds me of that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
People say that for a reason. It shows us that even though challenges are hard, they can actually be opportunities to grow.
So it's not about avoiding hard times, but learning how to deal with them so you end up stronger.
Exactly. Think of a tree that bends in the wind instead of trying to stand rigid. The flexible tree is the one that survives the storm. That's what we want to be: flexible, adaptable.
I like that. It's a really clear image.
Mm.
So how do we become more like that tree, able to bend and adapt when things get tough?
One thing that can really help is focusing on what you can control. A lot of times when we're going through a difficult time, we feel overwhelmed by things we can't change.
Like losing your job or having a health problem or even a pandemic.
Right. In those situations, it can be really helpful to focus on what you can control: your attitude, your actions, the choices you make.
So instead of thinking about the problem itself, which can feel huge, we focus on how we react to it.
Yeah. It's about taking back your power, remembering that you always have a choice in how you deal with the situation.
That makes sense. It reminds me of another strategy, breaking down a big, overwhelming problem into smaller steps.
That's a great strategy. It's easy to feel stuck when you have a giant problem in front of you, but if you break it down into smaller pieces, it becomes much less scary.
It's like climbing a mountain. You don't try to jump to the top in one go. You take it one step at a time.
Exactly. And each small step, no matter how small, helps you move forward and reminds you that you can keep going even when it's hard.
And that feeling of moving forward can be really powerful, especially when you feel lost.
It can. When you achieve those smaller goals, you build confidence, and that makes the bigger challenges seem less overwhelming.
So we've talked about focusing on what we can control, breaking down problems.
Yeah.
What else can we do to build resilience?
Well, one thing that's often forgotten is self-care. When we're going through a hard time, it's easy to forget about taking care of ourselves.
Because we're so busy dealing with the problem.
Right. But taking care of ourselves both physically and mentally is so important for staying resilient.
So that means things like getting enough sleep, eating well, and exercising.
Those are all important. But it also means things like spending time in nature, doing things you enjoy, and connecting with loved ones. Anything that helps you relax and recharge.
So self-care is about refilling your energy so you have the strength to deal with challenges.
I like that. And remember, self-care isn't selfish. It's about protecting yourself, making sure you can be there for yourself and others.
Nice they say you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. And speaking of others, another key strategy for building resilience is seeking support. We talked about this before, but it's worth repeating.
Because we're not meant to go through tough times alone.
Talking to someone you trust, a friend, family member, therapist, or support group can help you process your feelings, see things from a new perspective, and feel less alone.
It's like having someone cheering you on, reminding you of your strengths and encouraging you not to give up.
And sometimes just having someone listen without judging you can be really helpful.
So it's not about getting advice necessarily, but just having that support, knowing that someone cares.
Yes. Just being heard and understood can make a huge difference. It reminds you that you're not alone and that your feelings are valid. Earlier, we talked about finding purpose and meaning as a way to deal with darkness. How does that relate to resilience?
That's a good question. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Having a sense of purpose, something that gives your life meaning, can be like an anchor when things are tough.
Like a compass that keeps you on track.
Exactly. And that purpose can come from different places: your family, your work, your passions, your values. It's about figuring out what's important to you, what makes you feel fulfilled and like you're contributing to the world.
So even when things are hard, having that purpose can keep you going because you know there's something bigger than yourself that you're working towards.
Absolutely. It gives you a reason to get up in the morning even when you don't want to. It reminds you that your life has meaning, and it can inspire you to make a positive impact on the world.
It's about changing your focus from why me to what can I do to make a difference?
Exactly. And that change in perspective from feeling sorry for yourself to taking action can be really powerful. It helps you see your own inner strength and realize that even in the dark, you have the power to create light for yourself and for others.
This has been such an insightful conversation. We've talked about so many ways to find light and build resilience, even in the toughest times. Before we move on, are there any other key things you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, it's been great talking about all of this, and I hope everyone listening is feeling a little more hopeful, and that they have some new ideas for dealing with the hard stuff in life.
I think so too. We talked about so many things like changing your perspective and self-care and reaching out for support.
Oh, yeah, and finding meaning and purpose. Even when everything's going wrong, having that purpose can be like a light that guides you. It reminds you that your life matters and that you can make a difference.
Absolutely. I've always found that helping others, even just in little ways, can make me feel better when I'm going through a tough time.
I love that. It reminds us that everyone goes through hard times, and that even a little bit of kindness can spread and make other people feel better too.
It's like that quote, "The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others." When you focus on helping other people, you don't think about your own problems so much, and you feel like you're part of something bigger.
That's right. And that feeling can be really powerful. It shows you that even in the dark, you can make things better. You can be a light for other people.
It's amazing to think about that. Even when you're struggling, you can still help someone else. Now, before we finish, I want to talk again about one of the most important things we discussed today. That darkness never lasts forever.
It's so important to remember that no matter how bad things seem, no matter how dark it gets, there's always hope. There's always some light waiting for you.
It's like a tunnel.
Yeah.
You might not see the end of it yet, but if you keep going, you'll get there.
That's right. And sometimes going through those dark times actually helps you grow the most. It makes you dig deep inside yourself and find your strength so you come out even stronger.
It's like they say, stars can't shine without darkness. Sometimes you need that darkness to really see the light.
I like that. It reminds us that everything we go through, both good and bad, teaches us something.
This has been such a helpful and inspiring conversation. Thank you for talking with us today and sharing your wisdom.
It was my pleasure. And remember, you're stronger than you think. You have everything you need inside you to find the light.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on Quick Speak. We hope this episode has given you some tools and inspiration to find your own light.
Remember, darkness isn't the end. It's a chance to grow, to change, and to find the light within you.
And don't forget to visit our website for more English learning materials. We have vocabulary lists and exercises from today's episode. The link is in the description.
Keep practicing your English, keep learning, and keep shining your light.
See you next time.